board meeting for Wednesday, January 13th, 2021. Call the meeting to order and do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, approval amendment of meeting agenda items.
Hold on. There's a 2.
School board recognition month.
So I'd like to take the time here to thank all the school board members. I've always been amazed at school board members who work and then they come back and do a second job. And it's a thankless job and they don't get paid for it. So this month is board appreciation. So all the board here is in person has their certificate, and the other board members will make sure we get that to you. We have a little gift from us to you. And we want to thank you very much for your service. And it's a very thankless job, but I want to tell you it's an important job. And it's very nice to have your support. And we could not do our jobs without you. And our kids would not have the service. So normally Governor Brown has a proclamation they read, but that did not get out this year. So I just wanted to make sure I took the time, and Tanlin and our team wanted to thank the board, and the community wants to thank you for all your service. So thank you.
All right, number 2, approval amendment of meeting agenda items.
I move to approve the meeting agenda items for the January 13th, 2021 board meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting agenda items for the January 13th, 2021 board meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Is Darwin on?
Aye.
Okay, Darwin. Thank you, Darwin. Motion approved. Approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of December 9th, 2020 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of December 9, 2020 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Good news.
So we have some good news. We're looking at a proposal to the city of the town of Lakeview, not the city, the town of Lakeview. And last night with the meeting, they preliminary approved it. They're going to have a hearing. So we got our attorney working with them because he works for both of us. So he'll have a conflict of interest, Mr. Headland will. But we'll get that worked out. Then I'll bring it to the board next month to look at it. We're looking at purchasing that property on First Street, and then starting us a daycare there with the preschool. So keep you posted on that. I did send you the preliminary plans, so I'll have a couple corrections on that, and then after we go from there, we'll make sure we work on it. So I think it's a pretty good program for us. A couple grants out there, and Michelle was great at the city, so I wanted to publicly praise her. And I think I'll keep you posted as we move forward, but I think that's pretty good news. It's a very big need.
All right. Just clarification on F Street.
Yes, F Street. I said First Street. Yeah, I always say F. I think first it's F Street.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same street that Mr. Johnson lives on, F Street.
Any other good news?
No, that's it.
Okay. Superintendent report.
So I want to make sure I talked about the ESSA. We have that going out. So ESSA money will be 4 times, as I sent that email out to you. So that's going to be great news for us for some of the additions we have for COVID. In addition, we met yesterday, and it's interesting to see what's going to happen. As they bring schools back online, there's going to be a lot more regulations. Some of us who are already in operation or will be arguing with the state on this because they want us to have compliance officers and even talking about having testing on school sites. And we do not feel that we're ready to do that or should do that, especially since our system is working. Some of the bigger districts can do that. We have people get their temperatures checked and all that, and our community has been wonderful. And we've been very proactive, and we've actually quarantined probably more than we need to by law, but we've rather been safe than sorry. I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of this because that was a big thing from yesterday, and it took a lot of superintendents put us back on our heels a little bit, and having a compliance officer. Now we wrote that in our very first plan, but that was pulled back on because we just hold each other accountable. And if they do have a compliance officer, we'll have that in place. But as for taking tests of everybody coming in the building, I just don't think that's going to be good for our, I don't think it's going to be the payback that we need. And I also think it's going to be a bottleneck. It's actually going to hinder us more than help us. So we're working on that. And Mark Woody, the superintendent in Bakers, spoke up as well yesterday. So I want to keep you posted on that. In addition, there's a lot of us working to try to get us to have some sports. So we're going to see what happens there. But it's an uphill battle, and we're working on that one. So that's what I have there. I want to mention that we'll talk about policies and stuff later, but that's pretty much what I have, Mr. Chairman. Any
Okay.
questions?
All right, seeing none. Question, Darwin?
No, I was just saying, no, thanks.
Okay. All right, next one is ESSER.
Yeah, that's the additional funding I mentioned. So that's the one where the COVID. So we had so much money last time. It's been $500 million to the state of Oregon. So that's really great. So that will allow us to recoup some of the money we've already spent and make Janet a little happier, to balance our budget. So it's really good, and that will not cut into our contingency. So it's really appreciate the federal government. They wanted to get that out before President Trump left, and then the state's going to be putting that through.
Okay. Public comment. Hearing none, we'll go to reports. Bond process.
So what we have on the PERS bond, Janet and I will be having more information there, and Janet, jump in there if I miss something. Right now, we look like we have 22 districts that will be joining us on bonding the PERS. If that happens, we'll bring that all to the board, and you'll see how that works. So what will happen then, we will be bonding our PERS debt. So right now, our PERS debt is 17 point something, almost 18%. If we're able to bond our debt, we'll get it below 5%, and that will make us money for us. And we can put that money aside, and then that will not impact us for our bonding if we go for our building bonds in the future, because what will happen is we'll have that money set aside. So it's not like it's a debt. It's already there. So it's just going to save us a great deal of money. We're not paying the debt. We're borrowing against it at a cheaper rate. So that's what our goal is. But I wanted to make sure I put that in the forefront. Janet and I talked about that. So she'll get some more training. I think it's next week. She has some things going, and then we'll keep the board, but it's on our agenda for next month.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Superintendent facility use policy.
So what we're looking at in this facility use, I wanted to get the board's direction. I think what I've heard from the board various times is that, if the building's available, that we want our community and programs to be able to access it. And the priority, as we look at it when we met with our admin team, is that first of all student activities are number one. So even if I have a booked activity and I'm a community member, they will get bumped if the students need an activity. So example might be that a team might go to a playoff or a competition. It's been moved, and then that mean you might have to bump one of the organizations that night. So it's for our kids. But the way I understand from the board is that the mentality is that if the building is available, then we should try to make it accessible for our community. And I just wanted to see if that's what the board wants me to do, and that's what we're developing the policy for. Met with the admin yesterday. We're going to troubleshoot the policy, give the board a chance to look at it. It's going to take us a couple months. But our policy is a hodgepodge. It's got things all the way from the part where we have to charge for heat. We've never done that. And there's some other things in there. It's antiquated, so we're going to try to fix it and make it more user-friendly. Some of the forms we have are 2 or 3 pages, and then you have 5 or 6 people sign off on it. We're trying to streamline that, and we'll bring that to the board. I just wanted to make sure am I capturing the board's belief about using the facility.
Okay. I personally think this is a great thing to have.
Yeah.
It's old language, and it really needs to be updated. So.
Okay.
Carry on.
Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. Number 3, building principals report. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
I got it.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Rose.
So I've got all 3. So I'm just gonna. Okay, so we'll start with athletics. OSAA met today in an additional executive board meeting. They're meeting again 2 Wednesdays from today to hopefully provide some more guidance on the 27th of this month. So this was out of the ordinary in addition on the calendar to their regular school year meetings. So I have a feeling that they'll be meeting with ODE and OHA and getting some good feedback here in this next week. They'll let us know the following week. But currently, we're still gearing up for fall sports, scheduled to start the 22nd of February. We've got a lot of teams out there doing different things. In addition, there is a club volleyball group that's been quite active and is going to be having playing some games this weekend at the high school campus. And so we're excited that those are permitted and those teams are able to do that. With the academy, we are net loss 4 at this point, just checking earlier today, meaning that we have 4 more students going to in-person than transferring to the academy. However, and there's still some question marks out there with a couple on our spreadsheet. We sent out a recent school messenger to district families saying if you hadn't already, please contact us about any kind of change, and weren't surprised by any of them. Really, there are a couple that we anticipated here and there, but that number's really shaping up. So we have plans in place for transferring those grades to our own grading system. I've been communicating with Bonnie and Carly as best I can to make sure they have the right names and can plan for classes down there as well. And that there really isn't much else going on as we gear down in the semester here. We have a couple students graduating early from the academy, and one of them that is going to be graduating early is actually hoping to just take some supplementary courses, which would be allowed for the students. So we're kind of excited about that, actually. Any questions?
Any questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Who would like to go next?
Go ahead, Mr. Stratton.
Okay, mic check, you got me?
Yep.
Awesome. Hey, we made it. Haven't talked to a lot of you since prior to Christmas, but the one big goal that a lot of us had was make it to Christmas. And I can't be more pleased, happy, and excited with how we were able to do that. Stay open in person Monday through Friday. If any of us got a chance over Christmas break to talk to friends or family members whose kiddos are going to schools that are not open, and we realized how fortunate we were, and how much the hard work paid off. And I just really appreciate to all the stakeholders, from the school board and Mr. Carter all the way down through to students, parents, staff, everyone that did everything it took to keep us open. And I guess our next goal is to push on through to the next break, which I call spring break. I was worried about coming back from Christmas that we might have a few more cases with everybody getting together over the holidays, and we did. I ended up quarantining, I believe 15 was the final count, 7th graders, for a 10 calendar day quarantine. So they will all be back in the building on Friday. It makes it a tough time to quarantine because it is the end of the semester. It is middle schoolers. Thank God it wasn't high schoolers, because it would be a hard 2-day crunch right before finals next week. But it has been tough on the 7th graders because for some of them, this is the second time they've been quarantined. And we've struggled with a few things with those 7th graders. The quarantine, getting them to do their work. It's been a struggle, but at the same time, the quarantines worked. We have kept secondary positive tests out of the school building. So we've been able to quarantine and stop the spread. So even though our kids are missing, the quarantine and the plans worked. We were able to use contact tracing, seating charts, interviews at the health department, and interviews with teachers here to determine which group would go home. And that's why it was only 15 students and not the whole 7th grade. One thing that we've done since our big quarantine is we've used the services of Ms. Chalice Young to help us, and she communicates with those quarantine students. Hey, are you on Google Classroom? How can I help you? So it's been great to have her services there. With that being said, semester finals are coming up, and we will have tomorrow. We're going to have an assembly first period put on by the Honor Society, and they are going to talk to all the students virtually in the first period class on effective study habits and study skills for finals. So we're going to have a study habit assembly tomorrow, and then they're going to play some minute to win it games at the end. So again, trying to have an assembly type with a virtual touch to it. So I'm excited about that. Hats off to the Honor Society. You know, every year they have to do so many service projects and get so many hours of community service, and it's been tough with the COVID and the closures for them to get those. So I'm excited for us to find something for them, but also how it pays back to our kiddos. We had a drug dog go through the school right before Christmas break. It was pretty interesting. So we did a lockout drill. So we locked all of our doors and told the teachers to keep the kiddos in the classroom. And we had a deputy from the north side of the county show up with their drug dog, and we walked the hallways and the bathrooms. And some interesting things came up, and I'm not going to spill the beans because we're going to bring that dog back here in about a month and see if we have the same information. And if we do, we'll be asking some more questions. But it was a neat opportunity to, one, get that dog some practice hours because they need to log so many hours to stay certified. And then also for Mr. Rose and I to work with our school resource officer on what was going on. So I'm excited to do that and again, use that resource again. And on January 29th, we're actually going to have a virtual school assembly put on by the student council. And we are going to bring the drug dog into the gym, and the officer is going to show the students how the drug dog operates through that virtual assembly. So we're excited to show that. I think it's a neat piece to show the kids. And also I think it's a career chance for kids to see how an officer can use a drug dog if they're interested in that type of career. House Bill 3499, that's something that Susan Albertson does for us for our ELL population and our students. And through the work with Susan Albertson and Janice Heigl, I was able to purchase a computer program or an app called Nearpod. Really excited about that. I have a handful of teachers who have used it in the past and are currently using it. And next week, we'll start doing in-house stuff development on that. So something we use with that House Bill 3499, which supports our ELL students. And it also will be good for us on our distance learning platform and current classroom. And then the last big one is graduation. Yes, we've already had our second meeting as a staff on graduation. And I just want to give the school boards a heads up that if we continue to stay in the county matrix that we're currently in, if we're in that green, which we were the last 2 weeks, we would be able to do 50% occupancy in the gym. The gym is rated at 1,000 people right now. So 50% would be 500 people. So if we were in the green, we'd be able to have 500 people at graduation. And roughly that would be approximately 6 tickets to every graduate. So just a heads up on that. If we go outside the green like we're going to next week, we will not be able to hold graduation inside the gym. We just won't have the numbers. It's 100 people, I believe, right, Mr. Rose? 100, he's shaking his head, yes. It's even more ironic that in the green, we're able to have more people in the gym than we are on the football field. So the gym right now in the green, that low level is our best option. If we're anywhere outside of that, we're gonna have to do something different. So as we are getting ready for graduation, I am planning for 2 scenarios. In the gym or something similar to what we did last year, which I believe was pretty successful, but there is some ways to improve on that. But just want to give you a heads up that we are ready for graduation, and graduation is set for Saturday, June 5th at 11 o'clock. And so we're putting the graduation announcements together so parents can start buying those. So we'll do the same thing I did last year is graduation will happen on June 5th. We just don't know what it will look like. And it'll be, if it stays the same way it is right now, it'll be a week to week call unless somebody tells me, no, just run with this. If I had my preference, I would like to have a parade and have it indoors because I think the formality of the indoors is what we all want. But it may be a week to week call on that. So just a heads up of what we're doing here, and we have a graduation committee that's already started working on things. And that's it. Is there any questions?
The board member Randy Bunton has a question.
I just wanted to ask, as far as graduation goes, it sounds like you're working on it. I know a lot of like airlines, places are considering a vaccine being a pass. So, I mean, this would all depend on how things roll out for the spring, but if you were to try to hold an indoor one, I wonder if you had a vaccine, you got a pass to graduation. It could help alleviate in some ways. It's a thought. So perhaps that could help play into things as well. I don't know the legality, I don't know about the regulations, but a lot of organizations are talking about if you get the vaccine, it's a pass to board a plane, it's a pass to go places. So I'm throwing that out there as maybe a possible scenario to help with everything else you're thinking of as well. So
I appreciate that, but that would be hard on staff, and I don't know if we can require staff to have vaccines. So we cannot, so that's going to be tough.
Correct. And I don't think we can ask students or participants as we get into HIPAA issues. They said there might be something that they change up with that on regulatory thing. This is a really changing area, but currently not, unfortunately. Even if it would make sense.
I just thought it could help alleviate some of the tickets, the people who could try to get in the door to see them could help our numbers as far as the ones that still weren't eligible for vaccines. I don't know. It was a thought. But.
I think it's a good thought. We also need to think about, even though if we're in the green and I'm allowed 500 students, we still have to do the physical distancing, I would imagine, because that would still hold true. And I haven't measured out how that would work.
Right, and as well, the students aren't eligible for vaccines at this point yet either, so that causes a problem. But
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right. Mrs.
Thank
Warner, I guess you gotta bring up the cleanup matter here.
Well, wait a minute, are Chris and Lane on base? I want to know how good this needs to be. Hey, Chris and Lane and I really did kind of reflect a little bit when we got to Christmas break because we dealt with this all last spring and we had the support of our community, and it was really a big deal to make it to Christmas break. We had no idea when we started the year if that would happen, and it's been a battle and a lot of hard work on everybody's part, and I had great partners in getting this way and great leadership from Mr. Carter. We had a staff meeting last week and it felt really good to start talking about steps for next year instead of focusing on COVID procedures. We do have 2 4th grade classrooms that are quarantined until January 19th. We did err on the side of caution and do the entire classroom versus trying to do proximity. Elementary kids are a little harder to pin down that way. But they'll be returning the 19th, and their teachers are in the buildings working in isolation, different times getting that curriculum out to students. So we're going to put COVID aside for a little bit and talk about other stuff. We did do health screenings. We were not required to, but we did do health screenings end of November, beginning of December for hearing and speech. Jay Farman, I wanted to make sure that we want to shout out to Jay. He and his crew run the Knights of Columbus Burger Wagon, and they raise several $1,000s every fall for our kids. I made a delivery to Union the other day, and the child received snow boots, snow pants, coat, mitten, hat, and a blanket. And they are doing some really great things for our community and for our kids. So a big shout out to them. Janice Heigl has been here yesterday and today, and I want to talk a little bit later about kind of what she's been doing, but she is here on a regular basis on our calendar. We have Fremont assemblies on January 29th and Hay assemblies. We do 7 separate assemblies to protect our cohorts. February 2nd, we will be doing dental services in all schools. I canceled them in beginning of December because I was a little nervous about our numbers and not grabbing all our kids either, because we were having quite a few kids out being sick, and we just rescheduled with them, and they'll be providing the services out at Union as well as in town on February 2nd. We are working with our parents to bring kids back that may have been concerned about COVID and just not comfortable with procedural things. We're meeting with those parents one-on-one or by phone and email to try and get as many kids back into our buildings as we possibly can. We did host virtual winter programs. Our music teachers worked really hard on those, and we had a lot of really positive feedback on the virtual programs. One of the great things about it is instead of a large group and not being able to see your student, you had very small groups of students on risers or on the floor that you could see pretty easily. You could also send that to a grandma or grandpa someplace in another area. And so we got lots of positives back about those. We instituted a new schedule when we went back to our regular schedule. The elementary school in particular had some bumps to kind of smooth out because we needed to figure out what we were doing with students for inclement weather in the mornings and how to smooth out our 7 lunch periods within one facility and a PE schedule. We've had Janice Heigl here, like I said, and that's paid for with House Bill 3499 money, as Lane mentioned, and we adopted a new math series this year, Big Ideas, that gives us a congruent math series K through 12. And our teachers just jumped in during COVID last spring and did webinars online and did a bunch of professional development. But we brought Janice back in, and they've been working on questions that teachers had, things they really wanted to pursue. There's a skill builder model that's a computer access for our students. That's very helpful for kids that have remedial gaps in math. We've been working with her on that. And then today she did some professional development on, in the event that we don't have Smarter Balance assessments, we do want to give interim assessments at the elementary level. We want to give a set of them in March and a set of them in May. And our reasoning behind that is we want to keep the format for the Smarter Balance testing in front of our students, and we want to give a couple more data points as to growth that our students are making in a different format. We already use Easy CBM 3 times a year to show growth, but we wanted another test as well. We are doing Easy CBM testing this week and next week, and one of the reasons that we do Easy CBM testing is we look at student deficits and put them into remedial intervention groups every quarter from that data, and we meet together as grade levels to work on that. This might be a review for some of you guys, but we do have a new board member. I wanted to do another shout out to Mr. Reese and Shauna Alexander. We got Chromebooks in that we had ordered this summer. They came in and they processed them very quickly, got them out to our teachers, and we spent a week right before Christmas, and we laxed up on the academics so we could focus on getting these kids on these Chromebooks and getting them able to sign into Google Classrooms in the event that we had an uptick after Christmas and we needed to have any kids quarantined, which we ended up having that happen. And those kids have been doing quite a bit of work on Google Classroom. We are moving along and planning for next year. We do not have a reading. We normally would have a reading adoption scheduled for this year, but we're not going to have one. The state of Oregon is moving it forward a year. So our staff is doing professional development around what we can do to supplement our reading series. It's getting fairly antiquated and helping our students with gaps for the following year. So it feels good to move forward in that way. I've had a couple people ask me, one of which was one of our board members, about coming and doing a little quick tour in the school and looking at how we're running some of these COVID procedures. And I would be happy to host that if you just let me know what works for you. Do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Susan. Next up is Special Ed Director Report.
So, the special ed department, we resumed our teacher meetings thanks to K through 12 going on the same schedule. That's worked out really nice because then we can have all of our teachers together. And this year our plan is to work together on, some more peer advice on paperwork, as well as some trainings around paperwork and having them share their lesson plans, what's working for students, where they may need some support in. And then starting in February, the plan is to have some training for the paraprofessionals. So we'll get some ideas from them, the paraprofessionals, as well as the building principals and the special education teachers. I know that in the past they wanted, how do you work with a general ed teacher? How can we work with kids with different eligibilities like autism or specially designed, a special learning disability? And so that is kind of where we're at for the month. And do you guys have any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lonnie. Next up is financial report. Janet.
Well, good evening, everybody. So I think you guys should have it in your, and so just a few highlights. Our month to date, this is for November 30th, excuse me. Month end, month is at 2.8 million, which is over plan, so we're favorable by about 48. And then our to-date expected November is at 855,000, which is also favorable to us right at the moment because we spent about 37,000 less than what we had anticipated. To November, we had total year-to-date revenues is about 5.6 million. We're at 56% general compared to, we were at 52% in the prior year. And so when you look at that on the whole, you're looking at, we had a bump in our state school fund. And so that's a lot of it. Plus some of the ESSER money, that very first round, starting to come in for us. We're starting to be able to claim that. So within our revenues, our projected year to date, we're about 56%, as you can see in that very first blue graph. And then on our local sources, we're about 70%. And so we're down a little bit about our taxes, which I think we've grown to expect that, given the state that we're in with COVID. So there is, which is about halfway through. Remember, we get a double payment in July. And so as of November, that puts us halfway through the year because we don't get anything in June. And so we're about 49% collected on that. So that kind of wraps up our revenue. Any questions on the revenue? Okay. Total year-to-date expenditures is 3.2 million. We're about 28% of the annual budget compared to we're at 31%. And so total year-to-date, we've overspent 1,000. And so when you look at that, to rein in a little bit, we've been doing, staff on than we anticipated. Plus, we've kind of reined in some of the purchases so that we can accommodate for our year-end. And so, if you recall, last month we were kind of detrimental about 600,000. We're kind of making ground. That third sheet, if you take a look at that, we're going to be, as of roughly about 700,000 strides and making smart decisions about what we purchase, making sure that we get all the bases covered, etc. Is there any questions?
Not hearing any or seeing any. Thank you, Janet.
Yeah.
like we're on a good track there. Okay. All right. Next up is old business. We have none. Okay. New business. 2021 Washington DC trip.
I'm okay, Mr. Schoenberger and board. I'm gonna real quick, turn this over to Mrs. Hopper. She, there's a memo in your packet, and then she is our staff member that's gonna sponsor this trip, so I'm gonna turn it over to her in a second. But I want you to know that the 3 adults that have asked to join this trip, we'll have them do the volunteer form for the policy. And I know that we have at least one of them done already. But we are looking at trying to do a Washington DC trip. And I think a lot of it depends on COVID, but I'm gonna turn it over to Mrs. Hopper. I see that she's here. So Mrs. Hopper, go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. We are planning on taking the trip to DC as soon as school is released. We are not gonna do it during spring break as it's been done in the past due to COVID. That way we don't have any quarantine times from parents, students or teachers. Pretty excited. We've got 25 students right now registered for this trip. Alice agreed to go on it with me again this year since she has led this trip for several years. We actually have 4 parents signed up, Lane. We've got Mark Davids, Amron Lim, Kristen Thompson, and Natasha Start. And I think Amron is the only one who has not turned their paperwork in.
No, he has.
Yeah.
But
You guys find his through.
Oh, okay, perfect. So yeah, this is what we're looking at this year.
Okay, Linda, just a quick question then. What's your go, no go if we're still in a COVID situation towards the end of the school year?
Well, EF Tours, the company that we are working with, they had to deal with this last year. If we have to put the trip off, for a year, we can absolutely do that. We're watching the situation very closely. Right now, everything is a go as far as EF is concerned. And I think we've taken precautions here as far as, to make sure that, we're not putting the school in a situation where we have students or, anyone quarantined. So hopefully everything goes. But like I said, we do have that option to put it off if we do end up, in a situation where COVID numbers go up.
Okay, so financially, it's not a problem. There is your money's still good later.
Yeah. After last year, these tour groups, like EF, they have actually added this into their contracts with us that if we end up in a situation that we are not going to be sitting with all of these plane tickets and the trip purchases, and we'll just put it off for a year.
Okay. Board, any other questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think you have to approve that according to our
Yep.
policy.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the Washington DC 2021 trip.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2021 Washington DC trip as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you guys, good plan. Okay,
Thank you.
number 2, budget committee member. Darwin, you might have to go to mute.
Sorry about that.
So as you guys can see, we ran a quick advertisement to gather one more board member that I've had vacant for quite a while. And so Mr. Scott Latham was write a letter of interest, and I'm pleased to present him for your approval this evening to our budget committee, along with Leanne Evans and Amy Kinsley and Stephanie McLean and Dan Henderson are all with us along with you guys.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion?
I move to approve Mr. Scott Legum as LCSD number 7 budget committee member.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve Mr. Scott Langham as the Lake County School District number 7 budget committee member. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, budget calendar approval.
Okay, so basically the long and the short of it is there's a lot of information there lined out. We're looking at April 26th is our first budget meeting and our second. And of course, I always like to put a third one in there just in case, but I do try to push with 2 meetings. So May 24th are scheduled. I've kind of touched base with the budget members along with you guys as well to make sure that we earmark those dates. And so I'm hoping to get this so we can march forward with a new budget.
Okay. Any discussion? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the budget calendar for the fiscal year 2021-2022 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the budget calendar for the fiscal year 2021-2022 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
So, Mr. Chairman, would you like us to send out an invitation to all the boards with these dates?
That'd be great.
Okay, we'll send an invitation to all the boards with these dates.
And the members.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, next up is Superintendent Evaluation.
So this is basically his evaluation that's coming up, and the board and myself have been in communication about this. You guys knew that the workbook was coming, which we'll use to evaluate him. The timeline I set up, which I already sent to you guys, and that's just kind of what we're going to follow to get this done, and then his self-reflection.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Okay. Any questions? Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the 2020-2021 Superintendent Evaluation Timeline Workbook and Scoring Criteria and Self-Reflection as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2020-21 Superintendent Evaluation Timeline Workbook and Scoring Criteria and Self-Reflection as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. Special directive for the superintendent.
So it's come to my attention, Mr. Chairman, that some of the board members would like me to explore having sporting events and other activities for our students. So if the board wishes to do that, then make a motion directly to do so, and I'll get after it.
Okay, so if everybody understands here, we're asking the superintendent to explore opportunities for our students to participate in organized school sporting events. Any discussion there before we have a vote? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion?
I move to direct the superintendent to explore opportunities for the LCSD number 7 students to participate in organized school sporting events.
Second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to direct the superintendent to explore opportunities for our LCSD number 7 students to participate in organized school sporting events. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Aye. 3, 4, 1 nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Darwin, are you voting?
Struggle is real.
Yes, I voted aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Consent agenda carries. Announcements.
Well, we have a KCC, so we're meeting with that. Tara Counts and met with Chris and myself and others and Brandy and Lane over the time. So we're going to KCC next week, and we have a lot of meetings scheduled. So even with the president, so we're hoping to have an agreement to bring back to the committee and to the county commissioners, and have something set up so we have our program on campus again. So we'll keep you posted, but I want to make sure I let you know that announcement. And I was just looking at that before I got here. I just got some more invitations, so we'll be there all day. We'll take care of it and make it happen. And then I'll probably want to add that, Mr. Chairman, future agenda items, KCC, as we get an agenda agreement from them and then get it to our committee.
Any other announcements?
No, sir.
Okay, next board meeting agenda items.
We have potential preschool program. We have the PERS bonding. We have the school board status update, superintendent evaluation following the timeline, and maybe KCC.
Okay. Next up is adjournment.
I move.
Whoa,
Oh,
hold on.
sorry, Amy.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I have one question. Are we meeting in person for the evaluation, or are we doing a Google Meet
I'm happy to do
on that
both.
one?
We can do a Google Meet, I'm sure, if
We
we,
can do it, yep. I'm happy to do
similar to what we're doing tonight.
Okay, I just want to double check. I was looking at the wording and wondering if so.
That's all right.
That would work for me really well.
Okay.
We could do that.
Thank you, Annie.
Okay.
Item number 12, adjournment.
Or I jump on it this time. I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
So moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.